Happy to be here with all of us. My name is Liana Flischman. I'm a Dale Carnegie facilitator, and we're very happy to have all of us here today. So please let's take a moment, read it, and then stick our pointer on the one that we feel is most important for us. All right, Miguel, why would the first one be important to you, sir?
Well, it's just good to find out certain people's traits because obviously they've been through the difficult times and they know what doesn't work. And, you know what I mean? Instead of trying to figure things out 15 or 20 years on your own, you can just learn from someone.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Miguel. And let's hear from Mohammed. Mohammed, why would number 2 be important?
Probably always communication starts between two people, and some things can be said in fewer words. Yeah, I think it all starts with interpersonal interactions.
When we look at these faces here, in the new normal, the post-COVID, the virtual world that we're living in, please let's go ahead and put our pointer on the face that best represents how we feel communicating to others.
He's not smiling, he's serious, you know, like don't show anything, just be.
Heard of Dale Carnegie 20 plus years ago. Read a couple of the books. I've got a friend in Egypt who works for the office of Dale Carnegie there.
Nice.
So it's various points of contact.
So this brings me to our next point of discussion. So Dale Carnegie has been around for over 100 years. I'm actually going to draw a little line here because right now this year we have been around for 109 years. And you know that Warren Buffett hangs one certificate in his office above his desk, and that is his Dale Carnegie certificate, because he has been quoted as saying that that is the most important degree he has. So if we experience a dramatic change in the last 12 months, let's go ahead and put that Y in the chat box. So that's quite a few of us, right, that have experienced a dramatic change. Yes, they keep coming through. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, please, if we don't have a pointer tool, please let's go ahead and participate in the chat box. Please let's write onto the whiteboard what that change was. And for those of us participating in the chat, please go ahead and type that into the chat box for us. Tasmay, new role, change of career. Transferring skills is a major challenge when we do it face-to-face. Online, it's completely challenging. So thanks for getting that first challenge on there for us. So please let's go ahead and in the chat box or on the board, type the word for us that springs to mind as a character trait of that person. So I'm going to put here bounce back, and that's true, Louise. Passion, positive outlook. Yes. All right. So we've got some really strong, powerful words here on our whiteboard. And when we think about the traits of successful people, they are usually bucketed into 3 distinct areas, being knowledge as the foundation, skills, and attitude. So I'm going to type those onto the board for us in red. So now when we look at these words that are on the whiteboard here, all of us are seeing here, is that attitude makes up the bulk of the characteristics of successful people. So in the chat box, please tell us why we think that is. Why do we think out of these 3 being skills, knowledge, and attitude, which we require to be successful, why would it be that attitude makes up the bulk of the characteristics of what it takes to be successful? All right. Okay. So Mo says he's been learning it over the past couple of years, meaning he wasn't born with this skill, right? So at some stage, Mo decided he needs to learn how to DIY. So either need to, want to, or can do. So tell us, Mo, during lockdown, you had some time on your hands. So what specific skills? So let's just pick one. What exactly did you want to, need to, or can learn?
Well, I learned how to do a little bit of carpentry, fix random broken things, hang frames, you know, those kind of stuff.
Okay. So let's think of the carpentry. Mo learned a little bit, right? So when you hit your thumb or finger, one learns, okay, let's not do that again. But it's not a perfect skill yet. We have to go here again and say, right, I need to, want to, can do. Then we look at more knowledge. So probably we'd go back and watch another video or 2. Hey, Mo, we are now going to look at acquiring a skill here today before we leave this room. Picture a pink elephant. Please let's raise our hand by clicking on the hand button that's right next to our name, or clicking on the emoji raise hand button. If we saw the words pink elephant written out when I said those words, please let's raise our hand. Please let's raise our hand if we actually saw an elephant, a pink elephant of sorts. All right, so that's everybody else here in the room. Okay, so most of us here think in terms of pictures. So what we are going to do here today is we are going to link a couple of pictures together in order to help us remember something. So we're going to start with a nameplate. But now this nameplate is as big as our hip. It is a big brass nameplate, as high as my hip. Growing out of this nameplate that's as big as my hip, is my house. So whatever house we live in, whatever house we are going home to after the end of today, or perhaps whatever house we are sitting in at the moment, that house is growing out of this nameplate. Hanging out of the windows of this house is my family. So for me, it would be 3 children and 2 dogs and myself and my husband coming out the doors and the windows. Who's hanging out of your windows?
It will be my wife and 2 dogs and 2 birds.
Coming out of the chimney of this house, and if we don't have a chimney, it's now grown. Our house has just grown a chimney. Coming out of the chimney of our house is a workman's glove. So please let's raise our hand. Who knows what a workman's glove is, please? And that is our stack. So let's hear from someone. Please raise our hand if we can remember the stack from nameplate to glove. Now, in the chat box, please, who has an idea of what the stack is? What did we just learn? Yes. Wow, Miguel and JTN, exactly. So we are learning how to build on a concept. And yes, people's names come first. What we just learned, ladies and gentlemen, is how to have a conversation with someone. So Manesh, could you come on audio so we could please demonstrate this? So in a moment, what we are going to do is we are going to go into breakout rooms, 3 of us in a room, and we are going to practice the conversation stack with each other. And we'll do it exactly as Manesh and I just demonstrated. We'll start with name, then we'll move up to where do we stay, and questions around where do we stay could be, are you from around here? Have you lived in the city before? Most people love talking about their family, so we could ask, do you have a family? We could ask, do you have pets? Yes, so let's get ourselves into those breakout rooms. Hello, welcome back, everybody. All right, I'm happy to have us back here in the room after our conversation practice. So please, in the chat box, write, how was this experience for us? Please, let's get a couple of words going there in the chat box.
Yeah, and surprisingly, it went well. What I experienced in this last year or so, is because of the lockdown we had. I think people are actually in need of and hungry for good conversation, instead of saying, oh, did you hear there's another wave? Oh, have you washed your hands? Oh, did you hear this? Just good conversation. In my estimation, it was a positive contribution, and I enjoyed it.
Part of our methodology here at Dale Carnegie is called the 5 drivers for success. And what this really is that Dale Carnegie did some research and found that there are 5 different drivers that support success. The first one being building self-confidence. And that's what we do at Dale Carnegie, is we help people to come out of that shell a little bit, is gaining that self-confidence to be able to make our voice heard, to chat to others when we need to. We also look at strengthening people skills. And this is just really nurturing those relationships in our lives, whether they colleagues or bosses or clients of ours, or whether those are in our personal life, is nurturing them, building on them, and starting new relationships. We also talk about enhancing communication, and this just really is how to communicate so that I'm understood and that I don't give offense to other people, because we find that frequently people feel that they may give off offense unintentionally. It's also about leadership skills, and I'm going to ask that we raise our hand if we are a leader. If we are in a leadership position, please let's go ahead and put up our hand. And then finally, life could not be more stressful than it has been for us in the last 12 months. We find that heart attacks kill more people than COVID or HIV, which really means that stress is the #1 killer in our country. So when we look at these skills I've just spoken about, please let's go ahead and stick our pointer tool next to the one we find interesting or most relevant for us here today. Thanks, Malusi, JTN, Sean, and Miguel on the whiteboard.
I think that particularly with us working online and from home, we all tend to not draw the line and find a balance. And so the workload is just, and the time that's spent on work, in my case, is way outweighs any personal or downtime that I have. Also, I have taken on a new career. So to build on what Mohammed said, it's strange. I've always had confidence. I was in a marketing executive background, and I've gone into corporate governance and company legal, and I'm dealing with executives and something that's completely out of my norm. And I'm actually starting to second guess myself, which is strange. It puts a lot of stress. And for the first time, I'm actually questioning, am I good enough? Can I add value? You know, these little voices in my head that I'd never experienced before. So that's strange.
And why they would be important to us. In the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie introduces 9 human relations principles that we can use to support these drivers. So in a moment, Mo is going to put a link in the chat box for us so that we can download our golden book. All the principles from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, all condensed into one easy to find place. So let's have a look at these principles. And there we go. Thank you, Mo. There's the link in the chat box for us to download the golden book. Now, the first principle is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Please let's raise our hand and tell everybody here what that means. What does it look like when we don't do this? Our next principle would be give honest, sincere appreciation.
If you've done something wrong at work, I've grown up like it. If you've done something wrong, you need to know you've done something wrong. You know what I'm saying? And if you've done something right, there should be appreciation. Well done.
All right, so let's look at the third principle, arousing the other person an eager want. All right, our next principle, become genuinely interested in other people. Please let's go ahead and in the chat box write which word pops out for us in this sentence. All right, our next principle, this is being my favorite principle, smile. Why is this important? Ravi, please come on audio and tell us, why do you think it's important to smile at people?
I absolutely agree with Petra. Just to build on that, if I have a warm, inviting smile, generally you're going to react to that. So it's the way I present myself to you is naturally the way I would anticipate you to present yourself to me. So warm smile, basically being friendly, opens up the path to good communication with you, and you will naturally reciprocate in that matter.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ravi. And we're seeing some really important words in the chat box as well. It makes people approachable, compassionate, welcoming, and it's genuinely what we want as leaders, right? The next principle on the list is remember that person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. So, Mohammed, seeing as you were the last person to comment here, please could you come on audio and tell us why we need to learn people's names, learn to pronounce them properly like they do, and use those names, please.
It shows the level of interest you have in a person.
All right, this brings us to the next principle. Louise, could you come on audio, please, and tell us why this is important for us as leaders?
Yeah, to be a good listener is actually very important. That's why you have actually 2 ears and just 1 mouth. It's definitely important, and then you can listen and reflect, and then you also show that you are interested in the person if you can listen and reflect on what the person just said.
Thank you, Louise. All right, our next principle being talk in terms of the other person's interest. So in a moment, we will be breaking into those same small groups that we were in before so that we can just have a chat around these principles. And what we'll do is we'll just have a 5-minute chat and we will receive a notification once we are sort of close to the end of that chat. Please let's just maybe take a screenshot or a picture or use the golden book that we downloaded so that we can just have a chat around why these principles are important and why they should be used more often. And thank you everybody for our time. In order to leave the room, all we do is we X out like we would close any other window, and Mo and Angela and Manish and I will be hanging back in the room. If we have any questions or want to make a comment, just chat for a moment, please do come on audio and have a chat to us. We are here.